Good afternoon, everyone. Sige. Let's get together. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, wala nang sir. Wala nang sir. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation to speak to you before you this afternoon. I understand this is the first of this kind of event. And congratulations to PLM for having organized. I understand last year, now you have a course, a communications course major in public relations. Sino ba dito mga PLM na public relations majors? Can we just have a show of hands? Okay, because I understand you're the guys who organized this. Okay, congratulations. It's a bit fun, it's a bit of, what do you call this? It's not all people normally used to, they just say communications arts rather than specifying public relations. Kasi public relations has a spotty image. Di ba? Pag sinasabi mo yung mga kaibigan mo, linuloko ka, ay, pinipr mo lang ako eh. Di ba? So there's this kind of divided view of what the real value of public relations is. But the truth of the matter is, public relations is a skill or a discipline that each one of you actually use every day of your life. And if you start to establish a career, you're going to be using that for every day of your professional life, whether you're not in the field of public relations or communications. PR is in a large sense who you are. It's your branding. And it shows up in the way you dress, the way you talk, the friends that you keep, the associations that you make, the interests that you develop. That's who you are, and that's what you communicate. And if you think that PR is not a skill that you need, think again. Because kung di ka marunong mamiyar sa kapwa mo mga kaibigan, you're going to be in a very bad state. Anyway, let me proceed to my presentation. It's always nice to come after Maria Reza, and this happened to me already once or twice before, because Maria introduces a very important thing that, well, for you siguro, this is like preaching to the converted. Social media is changing the communications landscape. If you are in the communications field or you're in the PR field specifically, by the time you graduate from school, you had better be very conversant, not only conversant, you should be in social media. Because pag pumasok ka if you're looking for a job and you end up in a communications group, you will find that social media is already an integral part of many of the communication activities of many companies. And certainly, it is an increasingly important part of what we are doing in the telecoms field. Okay, now, after that long introduction, medyo mabigat yung binigay ng subject sa akin eh. Can I show you there it is. Intersecting corporate strategy with social responsibility. Now, that's a heavy subject that we'll try to make simpler, no? Most companies, especially the large ones, aside from doing business, they adopt one or another kind of cause or advocacy. It's part of, it's not just part of their PR, it's really part of the way that they do business. Let me give you a few quick examples. This should be familiar to you. Are you aware or familiar with this project? You should be. This one is focused on education. No, stay there muna. Balik tayo. Can we go back? This is the Metrobank Foundation. Their focus has been for quite a number of years already the search for outstanding teachers. Their focus is on education. If you take another example, Ava. This is breast cancer. Yun ang advocacy nila. For the women in this room, if you're not yet aware, breast cancer is one of the leading causes of morbidity and mortality among women. For the men, you better be aware of that too. Okay, another one, next. Coca-Cola, their central advocacy for many years has been education, and it's a program that they call little red houses or little red schools. They help fund the building and repair of schools all over the country. Okay? Those are the kinds of advocacies companies embrace. Now, why do you think companies do this? No? Why do companies do this kind of things? Anybody want to hazard an answer? Sige nga. Why do they spend money and time and effort? Of course, it's good PR. That's the obvious thing, right? It enhances the corporate image that the company not just makes money, but they also do some advocacy causes. But there's another reason that many people outside organizations don't see or don't understand. They also do it for their own people. The simple fact is, good people, good professional people, like to work with companies that do good. So the good companies try to attract the best people by doing these kinds of things. When people feel good about working for a company because their company does these kinds of things, it increases the loyalty of employees in that organization. I think if you think about it just for a moment, ikaw, gusto mo bang, would you want to join an organization, whether it's a company or it's an institution, even has a lousy reputation? Diba? Even if they pay you good salaries, give you fantastic benefits, after so many years, if you work in an organization with a lousy reputation, balasubas yung trato sa tao, balasubas ang trato sa customer, at the end of the day, more and more of the good people leave. So that's one of the reasons why companies do this. Okay, now how do companies choose what they want to do in terms of advocacy? Okay, I'm going to talk mostly about my experience in PLDT and SMART because that's part of my responsibility. I'm not only the spokesperson of PLDT and SMART. My group also handles the corporate social responsibility activities of the company in cooperation with PLDT SMART Foundation. So, okay, well, this isn't just a PLDT. I think you can generalize this. There are basically two factors at work that make, that help shape a decision of a company or an organization. Am I going to do this kind of project or am I going to do something else? Okay, and I think that's fairly easy to understand. No? But sometimes, okay, what's the business needs of the company? For example, if you go back to my earlier example, why would Avon, which is a cosmetics company, why would it embrace, why has it embraced breast cancer as an advocacy? Yes? Okay, good answer. Women are their primary customers. Although I have to add that men are growing clientele. Okay? It's not just in Korea that men are beginning to use creams. It's also here in the Philippines. I know, I've seen my friends do it. Okay? But for Avon, it's their primary target market. And it's part of their brand building exercise to create affinity with their main market by saying that, no, we're very concerned about your welfare. And breast cancer, we know, is something that's very, very of serious interest and concern to you. Okay, so business needs of the company can be defined in many different ways. It depends on the business, and I'll show you how it works in our case in the telecoms business. But the other thing that you also have to bear in mind, and this is very important, because at the end of the day, oftentimes, this is what works. It's the personal inclinations of the leadership of the company. And the leadership can be, well, it can be the owners themselves, or it can be the professional leadership of the organization. It can be the CEO. Normally, it's the CEO. Now, why is that very practical and very important? For any of you who's going to be running CSR programs in the future, keep this in mind. Because it's normally the CEO or the owner that sets the tone of the organization. And when it comes to the CSR programs, you have to make sure, if you're the one managing these programs, that you have the support. If it isn't their personal inclination, and if you have to sell the idea to them, you have to sell it well. Because if you don't have the support of the organization's leaders, you will not get very far. Don't ever forget that. If you're pushing a CSR program in your organization, if you don't have the buy-in of your leadership, forget it. Hindi yan uubra. An example in the PLDT group, if you could shift to the next slide. Okay, that's our boss, Mr. Manny Pangilinan. In his case, he's very much into sports. And that largely explains why the group as a whole is heavily into sports. PLDT sports boxing, Smart, of course, sports basketball. Meralco has a basketball team. NLEX has a basketball team. I'm sorry?
Road Warriors.
Yes, the Road Warriors. Yes, our friend from NLEX is here. We are also supporting football, the ASCAL, the Philippine Football Association. No? We're very much into sports. We have large resources and time into sports. Why? Because Mr. Pangilinan genuinely, personally believes in the value of sports. Can I show you? Why is sports important? Do I have to? Is this a case of the preaching to the converted? You know why sports are important, or why people find it important? It's because sports teaches some of the most valuable lessons in life. It's a great proxy for real life. It's a great educator of what? Hard work, patience and perseverance, determination. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-succeed sa sports kung wala kang ganyan. And neither can you succeed in life without that. And sports is a great teacher of one of the most difficult lessons in life to learn. It's one of the most difficult lessons. Most people, or many people, don't get it right for a long time. Sports teaches you how to handle victory and defeat. Those always come together, guys, in real life, because if you can win, you can also lose. They always come together. And many people have real problems coping with, well, victory parang madali eh, but not true. Defeat, nako, masakit. The way Mr. Pangilinan puts it is that, both victory and defeat, they're both fleeting. Kahit manalo ka ng 10 beses, you're only good as the last victory that you have. You just move on. Defeat, it all depends on you. Do you magmumukmuk ka ba? Didibdibin mo ba? Or do you learn from it and then move on? They're the same. Victory and defeat are fleeting. And sports is a great teacher of that. That's why Mr. Pangilinan is such a great advocate of sports. And that's why we as a group, we are very heavily into sports. But that's not the only thing we do. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, before we go into what we actually do, let me share with you some of the simple principles that we keep in mind when we develop our CSR programs in the group. The basic idea is, number one, it has to be aligned with the business. Not all companies do this because depende sa negosyo. But in our case, and you'll see why later on, this makes a lot of sense. Better to keep it aligned with the business. Why? There are practical reasons for that. Number one, if you keep it aligned with your business, you already have the resources, you've got the networks, you've got the skills. Hindi ka na mahihirapan. Number two, it's easier to sustain, precisely because of those reasons. And sustaining is really one of the big challenges of CSR programs. And by the way, and to be perfectly frank with you, it's a great way also to demonstrate your products and services. And that's the simple, bare truth about it. But lastly, in our case, in the case of the telecom business, in our case kasi, it makes a hell lot of sense to do it that way because our business is really imbued with public interest. Sabi nga kanina ni Maria Reza, no? Telecoms, kami ang nagpo-provide ng oxygen para sa social media. And we'll show you why, what I mean by our core business is really imbued with public interest. That's why it makes a lot of sense for us na dapat i-align yung aming CSR programs with our business. Next slide, please. Okay, because why? The PLDT group, excuse me, nawala yung kwan. The PLDT group is the largest telecoms group in the country. We have the largest infrastructure for both fixed and mobile networks. We have the largest internet infrastructure, etc., etc. So if you're talking about communications, the PLDT group certainly has a central role in the country. So starting with that premise, next slide please. Okay, I think what the important thing to notice here, to point out here is that it is using infrastructure to act as an enabler. That's the key word, that's the key concept. Communications as an enabler. It's not us doing it, but we help other people do what they want or need to do. And the specific areas that we have focused in are things like disaster preparedness and response, education, environment, health, and livelihood. Okay, let's go to those examples. Let's go. Okay. The other principle, no, let's go to that slide first. Before we go into the specifics, let me emphasize one thing. If you're designing CSR programs, the way we do it, and I would recommend this to you, is that when you design the program, there always has to be a concessional component and a commercial one. What do I mean? The concessional component is something that you donate, you give. The commercial component is a commercial arrangement. Now, why do we practice this principle? Because remember this one. Kung kayo maghahawak ng CSR programs later on, remember this principle. People do not value things that are given to them for free. Hindi nila binibigyan ng halaga o importansya yan. Please remember that. People don't value things that are given to them. Kaya kung binibigay-bigay mo lang sa kanila yung mga bagay niya, kukunin nila, siyempre, tatanggapin nila, pero hindi nila bibigyan ng halaga. Hindi nila aalagaan, hindi nila poprotektahan, hindi nila palalakihin. That's something that we have learned from our own experience. It is only when people invest something of their own in something that people will value. Kung wala silang skin in the game, if they do not make their own contribution to that particular project, it doesn't really strike them as valuable because it's something that's just being given to them. But if they invest their time, money, and effort in an activity that's working with you, then they will consider it and treat it as valuable. That's something we learned the hard way. Yung mga mahilig mag-donate, etc., etc., that's the rule that you have to watch out for. So don't ever forget that. If you want people to value what you're giving, do not give it away all for free. They have to work for it as well. That's why there has to be a combination of a concessional component, something that you give, and a commercial component in the sense that they must also do something on their side. And here's how we executed that. Can we go to the next slide? Oops, you missed it. Huh? Okay. Okay, I think we have a technical problem. For example, in our Smart Schools program, we give internet connectivity for free for 1 year. Aside from that, we provide training to the teachers and to the students on how to use the internet and how to use computers. Para sa inyo, hindi na nyo kailangan yan. Pero in public high schools, it's very valuable.